Imagine rolling up to your house, walking to your door, putting in your key, only to realize the key no longer works. And on the other end of that door is someone living in your home who you don't know. Oh, trust me, it sounds far-fetched, but it's not impossible. And as a matter of fact, a very similar story just happened in Queens, New York. By the end of this video, hopefully you will learn a few things that you can do to protect yourself and your property from squatters. Hey everyone, I'm Chris Nelson, the team lead of the Nelson Home Group, helping buyers and sellers achieve their real estate goals here in the greater Philadelphia area. And if you've been here before, welcome back. And if it's your first time, welcome. But regardless if it's your first time or not, do me a favor, hit that red button and mash that bell so that you're notified when I post content. So as I mentioned, yes, squatters do exist, and believe it or not, in several states, including Pennsylvania, squatters have rights. Now, maybe my initial story of you pulling up to your property and going to put your key in is a little bit far-fetched, because usually when there is a squatter issue, it's usually not in someone's primary residence. Most of the time when there is a squatter or a squatter issue, usually the squatters will occupy a vacant investment property or maybe a second home that isn't often visited or is vacant for a few months out of the year. And the reason for that is because people aren't just driving around, scoping out the neighborhood, looking for a vacant home to live in. Maybe they're driving around looking at vacant homes for other reasons, but generally not to move into. So usually when a squatter moves into a home, they've already done their research, or they have become a victim of a fraudulent lease. So in this video, I want to share with you a few tips or things that you can do if you have an investment property or a second home or any home that might be vacant for an extended duration. Now, the very last tip is probably the most creative and my personal favorite. So you can do one of two things. You can either stick around and learn, or you can jump to the very end, write down that last tip, and then keep it moving. So the very first thing that I suggest you do if you have a vacant property or property that is going to be vacant for an extended period of time, simply talk to the neighbors. It is the most cost-effective thing that you can do. And trust me, your neighbors also want a safe environment. The last thing that they want is someone squatting in a home near them, or basically squatting in a home anywhere in their neighborhood. So the first thing I would do is talk to the neighbors. Let them know that the property is going to be vacant between this time and that time. And if you see anything that looks odd or out of place, let me know, which means you're going to need to supply your neighbors, at least a few of them, the ones that have their eyes on the property. You're going to want to supply them with a valid contact phone number so that they know exactly how to get a hold of you if they see something. Now, before you talk to the neighbors, hopefully the property is secure. But what I mean by securing the property is not just locking your locks. First thing you want to do is make sure that the locks that you're using are quality locks. Most of the locks that you buy off of the shelf, at least the ones that most consumers grab, the $14 to $20 locks, are extremely cheap, and there's an endless amount of videos online that shows people how to either pick them, drill through them, or other ways to circumvent the locks. So first thing is make sure you're buying a quality lock set. And what I would suggest you do is all of the other entry points of the home, with the exception of the main door, should be secured from the inside. You should use things like tension rods or thumb latches or any other type of latch or lock that you can lock from the inside, and one that is not accessible at all from the outside. Now, I will say that it is imperative for you to remove those locks when you do occupy the property or have someone occupy the property, because most municipalities will consider that a fire hazard. But again, what you want to do is secure all of the access points, especially anything that's easily accessible from the first floor. So all the windows, all the doors. If you have garage doors, make sure that they're locked. You can actually use a regular lock set and lock that onto the track of the garage doors to prevent them from going up. Or if you have electric garage doors, simply close the garage doors and then pull the electric from them so that they are completely disengaged. Now, some may disagree with this next tip because they may say that it actually is an advertisement of the property being vacant, but I would disagree, especially if you're following all the other things that I'm suggesting you do. Then putting a posting in the window of the property being a vacant property is another good idea. A lot of times, and most of the time in my experience, when there's a squatter in your home, quite often that person was actually a victim of a fraudulent lease. Now, it happens a lot. People will ride around or they'll use other tools like the internet to find out which homes might be vacant. And then they'll go and they'll create a rental listing for that property where they will act as the landlord. They will collect a check, more than likely first, last, and security. They will let that person move into your home, and then the fake landlord disappears with the money, and you come back thinking you have someone who legally rented a home. But technically, they're a squatter because the lease has no weight. And in this scenario, had you have had something in the window advertising that the property is vacant and not for rent, well, then it would have played in your favor. Not only that, but when people move into a home, they're going to go and take those postings down. So if you have neighbors watching your property, they can quickly call you and say, hey, Chris, did you take the posting out of the window? Because we noticed today it's gone. And hopefully you did remove it, because if not, you possibly have a squatter in your home. Now, this next tip may not apply, but if it does, it's definitely something that you want to check out or look into, and that is find out whether or not your city, township, municipality requires a vacant property registration. I know in the city of Philadelphia, they do require for you to register your property if it is going to be vacant. And there are also a lot of other surrounding municipalities that do the same. Now, this vacant property registration won't keep people from going into your home, but what it will do is it will give you more flexibility, more options, and more resource if someone does end up squatting in your home. Because again, moral of the story, find out if there is a vacant property registration form required, fill it out, and put it on file. Now, these last two, in my opinion, are really good tips. Even if you don't do the ones above, these are the ones that I would probably focus on the most. Cut the darn utilities, all of them. Cut the electric, cut the gas, cut the water, and well, I think that's pretty much all the utilities that you can cut, but cut them off. No one wants to move into a property that does not have or isn't fit for habitation. Now, trust me, there are some areas where people will move into any home. Doesn't matter if it's fit for habitation or not. But in most cases, people want a home that is livable, a home that is going to light up when they turn the lights on, a home that's going to provide heat when it's cold, and a house that is going to keep people cool when it's warm outside. So if you cut all the utilities off, this doesn't become an option. But here's the caveat. Not only do you want to cut the utilities off, call your utility supplier and tell them that you want to put a password on your account. This will prevent people from calling and activating utilities in their name without you knowing. And generally, it's only going to take you a few minutes and it's free. But that is going to definitely keep people from occupying the house for a long time because they're not going to have utilities. And as I promised, the last one is my absolute favorite, because most people don't even think about this. But if you have a property that's going to be vacant, whether it's a rental or a second home, set up a Google alert for your property. Because as I mentioned, a majority of the time when someone is subject to a squatter, it's through a fraudulent lease opportunity. So if you set a Google alert up for your property, you will be notified if your property hits the internet for rent, for sale, or anything along those lines without you knowing. And again, it's free and it only takes a few minutes. So hopefully you never have to worry about squatter issues. But if so, hopefully this list or these tips will help you remediate the situation quickly. As I mentioned, I'm Chris Nelson, the team lead of the Nelson Home Group, helping buyers and sellers achieve their real estate goals in the greater Philadelphia area. If I can be of any value, let me know. And as always, there is a buyer guide and a seller guide for you to download free. All you need to do is visit the comment section, click the link, fill out a little bit of info, and they're yours. So once again, Chris Nelson, the team lead of the Nelson Home Group. Until next time, take care.